that will create this atmosphere for a Lionel. And without further ado, as I always say, Lionel Goldbart. Let's give him a warm round of applause. Let's give a Lionel.
Street flowers breaking through the sidewalk, blooming in a valley of concrete and steel, driven by the power that turns every wheel. Street flowers reaching from the shadows, riding the reflections in crystal and glass, carrying a message. This too shall pass. Delicate petals sprang without warning, came to deliver blessings of morning. Street flowers decorate the city, blooming in the valleys of concrete and steel, driven by the power that turns every wheel, and the flowers reveal it is the power to feel. All right, is everybody awake and now? All right. This next piece was written in a time or place long ago and far away, but it could easily, I think, be juxtaposed to here and now. So it's called St. Mark's Place, but it might be called Washington Avenue. It's the funeral procession of the Children's Crusade, the gloomy, foolish costumes, the sameness of the faces, the timeless orchestration for the stranded and the strayed, the twinkle, blink, and twittering of all the fey betrayed. Yes, the jests of the host are the guests and the ghost of St. Mark's Place. All the venerable despots, having earned a day of fun, have returned to peddle garbage or disgrace in the caverns and the tunnels where the bandits needn't run, to the eager lambs and sparrows branded, blinded by the sun, and the lost are the least where the frost is the feast on St. Mark's Place. At the unblue mausoleum and other retorts, witless litanies are chanted to the pilgrims of space. Ancient rituals are played at, as well as other sports, while attendants plant omens and whisper false reports. But the whip of the womb steers the trip to the tomb on St. Mark's Place. Now, this next is kind of a series that covers a long period of time. And I'll begin by reading excerpts from a letter I wrote to Allen Ginsberg last summer pertaining to the first poem I'm going to read, which was an inauguration poem for Kennedy's inauguration. Dear Allen Ginsberg, in the fall winter of '60-61, I lived in New York City's Lower East Side on Avenue C between 10th and 11th. During the election campaign, Kennedy's motorcade went right past. So I wrote a sign which my 4 apartment mates and I held up. Beat Nixon Parade. Or was it Beat Nixon on Parade? Nobody seemed to know, but Kennedy saw it and smiled. Inauguration day, however, I was apartment sitting on Sutton Place, when I wrote the enclosed poem. I was friendly with the great late Bob Kaufman. Death is the final fix, using God's works, unquote. He told me he showed it to you, that you wept and wanted to meet me. So he brought me over. But as it did to Frost, the cosmos played a joke. When we arrived, the entire building was deserted. Later we learned that Norman Mailer had stabbed his wife, and you were laying low until the heat was off. No matter, the moment passed, we never went back. Too bad. For what it's worth now, the poem was written for you, the only poet in America at that time, and the rightful choice. Poor Robert, poor Jack, poor everybody. Better, I hope, late than never, Lionel Goldbart. And here's the poem. Robert Frost, January 20th, 1961, for Allen Ginsberg. Cold old poet shivers in the sun. Burnt out, he squints, stumbles, mumbles a sometime dream. Apollo's glare confounds those who cannot meet that fiery gaze. For the young is Phoebus's radiance. Eternal patron ever seeks new dream singers, even as they seek him. To meet fire with fire, to the glory of fire, until they too grow old and cold and blind. So poets, being creatures of habit, every 32 years they invite a poet to do a poem at an inauguration, so every 32 years I have to write a poem about it. So this one I wasn't even ready to look at it, but I decided to pull it out, and here it is for what it's worth. Lightning, January 20th, 1993, by Lionel Goldbart, to Maya Angelou. Disguised, cape-covered comic book superhero presented as scholar, the poet rises, bounces, bounds, unfurls thunder of purple like Hopkins' great storm fowl, and pounces on everyone, everywhere, at once, tattoos the planet with white-hot majesty that is coolest water forever. Well, thinking about this poem got me thinking about the word or the term Maya. Actually, she pronounces it Maya, but it's a kind of a universal word that we have the Mayan civilization in this hemisphere. It's a word in Egyptian, and there's other spellings. But I was thinking about the one from India. I got to ruminating on it, and this came out. Maya is illusion. All is Maya means that nothing is real, which is perfectly true in the sense of mutability. It does not mean that if one takes appropriate steps, Maya can be realized, and everything, including the adept, will disappear. Where do you go, they'll say? Or do they go too? I tried this once by ingesting a very large amount of a very strong stimulant, and with total concentration applying my attention to contemplation of the notion that all is imaginary, perfectly willing to vanish with it. Pretty scary, if the proposition was valid, which I disbelieved, but who knew? Anyone with a modicum of sense, of course. 4 or 5 hours went by. Then something did happen. I felt a distinct twist in my head, a shift, as in later Howard the Duck comics, of my cosmic axis. I had, long enough and hard enough, considered a completely nuts concept so as to skew my mind. I knew that immediately, and I was correct. The effects would manifest later. They did. Fortunately, the inverts, upside down, is right side up. Heraclitus said, "We cannot step in the same river twice." Thanks to Heisenberg, we cannot step in the same river once. All is Maya, until life is secured and immortality is achieved. We should all live that long. Thank you.